Coming back to order, do I have a motion to come back to regular session?
Motion to come back in regular session.
Second. Motion by Mr. Roach, second by Mr. Kiefer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. How about a motion to approve the executive session minutes?
Make a motion to approve executive session minutes as presented.
Second. Mr. Roach, second Mr. Burdette, to approve the executive session minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Carries. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Deloach. Second, Mr. Deloach, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned. We're going to call to order the Effingham County Board of Commissioners meeting this March 19th, 2019, at 5 o'clock. And I'm going to ask Roger Burdette if he will lead us in our invocation tonight, and then Mr. Floyd will lead us in our pledge of allegiance, and we'll all stand together.
Father God, I thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I thank you for the opportunity that everybody that's here tonight. I pray blessing and health upon everybody here, Father. I pray what we do and we talk about, and we think about, the decisions we make or glorify and use some way. Lord. I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 on the agenda is consideration of the resolution to approve the agenda. Have a motion?
I would like to add something to that, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to add planning board number 21 and zoning administrators when that comes up, shoot. Is that right? The details of it? Okay, thanks.
What's the detail?
Okay,
I don't have any
we
ads.
have details.
I have information, but I didn't know whether this was being added or not, so I don't have copies. I was in the middle of not knowing. Commissioner Loper informed me that he wanted to bring something up, and so I brought the materials, but I don't have.
Has it been to the zoning board?
It's a final thought approval, so no.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't say one.
Is this something, Mr. Lee, is this okay to add this to the agenda tonight? This may be an emergency nature.
Yeah.
Is it an emergency nature for?
No, it's not no emergency. It's just a time frame. This fellow had 4 lots 10 years ago, and they were divided lots. It had already been to the planning board and to a but the housing went down and fell down, so they combined 4 lots back together, so they wouldn't have to pay high taxes on them. So all they want to do is just permission to separate them between these 4 lots, which has already been the planning board and the commission at one time. So anyway.
Have it been back to the planning board to re-subdivide it? Teresa, you can chime in the process for that.
Actually, I don't think this one ever, I don't know that this one ever went through planning board. It's that old that it was in the days when a minor subdivision was below 10 rather than, so up to 10. And so this was, I think, a total of 7 lots on either side of the road. And as Commissioner Wilbur indicated, when the downturn came, they recombined lots and sort of sat on it for a while, and now they're ready to split them out again. But now we consider a major subdivision anything over 4 lots. So I was unwilling to sign the plat when they came in with it, even though it fell into that gray area of having been approved previously as a minor subdivision under old regulations.
I would think it would have to meet the new regulations.
Right,
I
so
mean,
that,
the benefit was had of the recombination,
exactly.
you know.
Well, that's fine. So, me and I didn't know the whole
No, I can appreciate you
story
trying.
about it, and he said something about it so well.
Absolutely, I appreciate you trying to
Just
put
put
it
it back on
forward.
there, and everything will be all right, so that's what I tried to do.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, but why don't we do this, if it's not an emergency, why don't we go ahead and get the zoning board, get the information, get it to us so we can see it up front, and then just a couple of weeks, and we'll get back to it.
That's fine,
Okay? All right,
that's fine.
sounds good, thanks, sir. Is there a motion to approve the resolution to the agenda as presented?
I call to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Whipper, second, Mr. Deloach, all in favor, say aye. And it's approved, and we have our agenda. Item number 5, minutes, consideration to approve the minutes of the March 5th, 2019 regular commission meeting. I have read those minutes, they appear to be an accurate representation of the meeting. Is there any additional corrections? Motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second, Mr. Burdette, to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. I want to welcome all the public tonight. Always good to have participation in the meetings and attendance. All the documents of this meeting are located in our clerk's office or website. If you've had a chance to review those, do ask you to make comments tonight. If you can limit them to a couple of minutes, that would be helpful to make our meetings, even give to our public hearings, make the meetings go a little more exponentially. And then if comments already been made, you can maybe mention that I agree with that comment, I have the same concerns. That'll help us keep the meeting moving tonight as well. And with that, we'll move into our consent agenda, item number 8. There's one item, consideration to approve sanitation releases as submitted by administrative staff.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. DeLoach, to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. We have one item of old business, and this is consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Brandon Pesnick, P-S-Y-N-S-K-I, to rezone 3 acres located on Maple Drive from AR1 to AR2, map number 450D, parcel number 34A in the second district. This was tabled at the 219, and then it was put off to 5 because of non-unanimous vote, I believe, on the last one. Is that right? That's right. Okay, so we are having the second reading. Do I have a motion to approve the second reading?
Can I speak up first?
Sure, you can speak even after the motion. Go ahead.
Done a lot of research on this since then. And the first thing I want to say is, you know, I know a lot of the people that live around there. And Ms. Gussie speaks on their behalf for many, many years, a lot of them. I've got to know the Hollies. I've known Mr. Jimmy for a little while now. There's people I care about that I know as well. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. I don't know. The point being is, I have not 1 square inch of legal ground to deny what he's doing. Not 1 square inch. And if I went against him tonight, I would be doing it for the wrong reasons. And I shouldn't be sitting here and do that. So, I mean, people went back to look on Magnolia along where Mr. Jimmy lives, and here's a tract that's 1.32 acres, where the argument is everything is 2 acres and above. This is literally 7 parcels down. 6 parcels down, there's another acre, 0.18. 4 parcels down, there's a 2 acre lot. Across the street, there's less than 2 acres. And there's also an AR2 4 doors down. But there's nothing I don't have any legal ground tonight. I really don't. If I did, it'd be for the wrong reasons. I just want to, I can't do that. It's because I love these people and I don't know him. It would be wrong. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion to approve second reading by Mr. Burdette. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Floyd. To approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no.
No.
Mr. Roach. Hearing none, ayes, the ayes have it, and the second reading is approved. Moving to the new business, consideration to approve a proposal and issue a contract to New South Associates Incorporated for an archaeological mitigation study for the proposed Effingham Parkway.
As you know, during the archaeological investigation early on Effingham Parkway, the proposed pathway, a rice field and cemetery stone was found. So studies need to be performed to mitigate the possibility of the cemetery extending into the project area and to locate the plantation house. As a result of that, proposals were issued by Fiona, and I believe you received 5 responses to the RFP that was submitted. Those proposals were also reviewed by Moreland Outbelly. They had to be qualified by Georgia Department of Transportation standards for performing those kinds of studies. So out of the 5 responses, you had one respondent who was not qualified by GDOT to perform those kinds of studies. And after review by staff and by Moreland Outbelly, the recommendation is to award the contract and the notice to proceed to New South Associates for a total price of $185,288.73. That's $185,288.73, and to issue a notice to proceed.
I have a question. Remind me why that bid was accepted over, say, Terracon?
Well, unfortunately, the owner wasn't present
Under the
to be
bids?
asked for a question, but I'm sure that they were, as I interpreted what she wrote up, they were the most responsive to the qualifications that were developed for this particular project. I know that there was another vendor who was low at Terracon, but I hadn't had an opportunity to ask her about why that was occurred. Although, if you'll notice, if any bodies are discovered on the site, they're going to charge them $6,000 for burial, and that may very well have been a factor also in wanting it to use that.
This pains me. This is government at its worst, isn't it? $185,000.
I suspect the RFP probably included asked for a lump sum number, and Terracon came back with one variable.
I see.
You see, I think it was you.
I would agree with that. That appears to be the likely cause, because if you noticed, none of the others had any additional charges that were being incurred. And if you notice also in the bottom, in the text of the findings, you'll notice, let's see, New South Associates Incorporated responded in accordance with the RFP and provided all required documentation. So I suspect that there were some of the documentation that was required, as well as the lump sum nature of the proposal, probably disqualified the other candidate who would have possibly been a low bidder had those other factors not been taken into consideration. I suspect you typically use the lowest, most responsive and responsible bidder, and so responsiveness to the proposal may very well have been a factor.
So,
And again, I apologize for not being able to offer a specific answer to your question.
so if we determine that there is a graveyard out there, which we don't know, we determine there is a graveyard, which we don't know that there is. We just, this piece of rock could have been thrown out from somebody's truck, fallen off.
That's right.
So if it's determined, we're saying that New South Associates, if they were to find 50 human remains, there would be no additional cost. I find that hard.
That would be my interpretation of the proposal.
Okay.
Now, if you want to hold the award,
They just have a back door around there already.
Yeah, I just, you know, I hate to go with $60,000 report.
Yeah, but you don't know what
They
they
don't
have.
get anyone's report that says about the other this.
do we have to do
if you want, obviously, we're all aware of the tragic circumstances that are associated with the owner's absence.
Yes.
And so, you know, if you want to table this to your next meeting where I would have an opportunity to talk further greater detail about this, I'd be more than happy to do it.
That
Concern is,
that would not impact our time schedule since we can't let this contract 21 anyway because of DOT's funding changes. I mean,
I would hope not, but every time I have a conversation with GDOT, they start talking about delays and cost of money.
They're looking for reasons to keep pushing. That's my only concern.
2 weeks though, I don't know if that would be, to get the answers that you're.
no, to Terry County can actually do the report. I mean, the time-
Yeah, I'm fine with, no.
That'd be
What
one
about the terror excavation?
Well, I got a question for the attorney. When you choose a low bidder, can you go back and negotiate the low bid?
I'd have to look at that. I know I looked at it before, but I can't give you an opinion right now.
'Cause I think we've done that with some contracts where you choose a low bidder, you can go back and work with that price on the bidder. Just, you obviously can't get higher than the next bidder or you get a problem.
Yeah, there's certain parameters. Again, I'm just, I haven't looked at that in a while.
What,
All the bids should be sealed.
and I'm okay if y'all want to, if y'all want to consider Terracon, as long as there's some kind of reporting before they just go start digging up 50 sites. You know what I mean? Without, you just need details.
See, I have a hard time believing that New South, they don't know, are they taking that kind of liability? What is it? Probably not too.
We're just going to wait 2 more weeks to make sure we get the answers.
And that's our point, if they don't
Yeah,
find
I'm
anything,
fine.
they spend $185,000 and they didn't find anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that for a motion to table for 2 weeks to the next meeting.
Get some more
And
facts.
see if we can save $60-something thousand.
At least get more information on the site.
Yep.
You want a
We need to
motion?
know two questions. We need to know, one, is it complete excavation on New South Associates? And two, is the only reason why Terracon is not selected besides that one item? Because if they can produce a report in a timely fashion, and the DOT approved, it's saving
I'll
$60,000.
give you those answers just as soon as possible.
Okay, sounds good. So you can kind of check into it and see if it's possible that we can negotiate that $6,000. Because we have the all-inclusive bid except for that. Maybe they'll make it go away or leave it at 12 or 18. All right, got a motion table?
Make a motion to table new business item number 1 until our next meeting.
Second.
Mr. Rhodes, second Mr. Lurko. Table to our next meeting. Do you have that date off the top of your head?
April 2nd.
April 2nd. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And the ayes have it. Okay. Item 2, consideration to approve and execute an agreement with Woodrow and Betty Hall. And I can tell you about this one, is that Mr. Beckett or who's going to do it? Oh, Daniel especially, this is a mine pit north of here that we need to reclaim. DOT is about ready to put some sanctions on it for not taking care of it, but we've got it all worked out. We're going to put a cover over it. Mr. Hall's going to take the property back with the dirt. That pretty much summarizes it. I believe if we go ahead and approve this agreement.
That's right.
And so staff and recommend alternative 1 is to approve the agreement. Okay? Trying to squeeze along here. So do we have a motion to approve alternative 1?
Motion to approve alternative 1.
Motion by Mr. Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd. Approve alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And it carries. You get that? Off of our table. Item number 3, reclassification, consideration to approve the job reclassification for the EMS and fire department.
Good evening, Vicki Dunn, Director of HR. At the earlier part of this year, I met with Chief Hodges and also Wanda McDuffie, the Director of EMS, concerning their staffing needs. After discussion, we determined that on the EMS side of the house first, what we'll do, Ms. McDuffie said that she needed more help in the day-to-day management of the EMS department and things like scheduling, fleet maintenance and things like that, keeping up with that. Right now she has an administrative assistant assigned, however that person does not have the knowledge or expertise needed to do some of these other things that the new operations manager job description would cover. In meeting with her, we went through the job description with the duties and responsibilities. They were all agreed upon. What we would be able to do is take one of her paramedic positions that she's currently authorized, change the title actually to operations manager / paramedic, because the person that fills that job is going to be required to remain a paramedic. That way she'd also have an operations manager on staff and also the paramedic side. If someone is called out or is going to be late, then the paramedic would be able to fill in those duties waiting on the relief shift. Again, it would not impact her budget. The funding is still there. It's not going to increase her number of positions authorized.
One quick question. It says EMS and fire departments. This
Yes.
is really involved in fire department, right?
I got a separate one for the fire
You got
department.
a
Oh,
separate.
okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, and for the fire department, speaking with Chief Hodges again, we're looking at the same thing, wanting to reorganize, reclassify some positions for better productivity and more coverage and the experience and qualifications that he needs at this time. This one also, what we're doing is we have a vacant battalion chief position now, and we also have a vacant captain position. What Chief Hodges has decided to do is take the funding from the battalion chief and the captain, take that bundle of money, and with that we're going to make a couple of changes. One of them, we're going to have add a position as an emergency management coordinator, additional / firefighter, and we're going to make that will be a promotion, and we're going to put Matt Gill in that position. According to Chief Hodges, during emergencies and things like that, Matt is the one that kind of handles the coordination of efforts and all of the background things. So that would be a promotion for Matt, which would come out of that funding for the battalion chief. In addition, you have a question?
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to give a position quite often.
Okay.
Positions like that have to be advertised before you hire someone to fill it?
Do you have any idea?
No, sir, there's no requirement that we advertise it. There's not.
I'm sure, because I know places I've been before, they say, well, you got to
Yes, sir.
advertise that.
No, I'm not
For
going
new
to.
positions, that's good.
No, sir, we don't have to advertise.
They just changing their positions, they're not getting new.
Right, it's basically changing his title and his class, and giving him a salary adjustment as
They're not
well.
hiring anybody new.
No, sir. And then in addition to that, we would also be able to hire, we'd be able to promote 3 on-board personnel at this time from firefighter 2 to sergeant positions, which would give Chief Hodges more supervisory or shift supervisory personnel on duty at any time. And then in addition, we would be able to create 1 additional firefighter 1 position, which we would advertise for that since it would become a new position. Again, all this will be within the same number of positions authorized. All of it will be in the salaries authorized, or the budgeted amount authorized for 2019.
How long has the positions been vacant?
Sir?
How long has the positions been vacant?
The battalion chief has been vacant since October maybe of last year, September, October of last year. And then the captain is a new position that's never been filled. It was added to the budget to the department this budget cycle.
And the paramedics?
Paramedics, it's been vacant probably about 8 months. Mhm.
Do you think we're going to end up, as we're a growing county, we're going to end up needing them in the future? Or is this something we know we don't need, we're just using those assets in a different way?
The assets, as far as EMS, Mrs. McDuffie and I spoke about that. She is, with her structure right now and with the part-time paramedics, EMT, she's able to have on staff as well. She doesn't feel a need at this time right now as far as needing additional positions. She has not requested additional positions for next budget year as well. Chief Hodges?
Chief, don't you have some, firefighters that paramedic on first responder? We don't have any firefighters, you have the, what's it called, you have the
Paramedics, we do have a handful of paramedics on staff as well.
I was thinking that might be one thing that answers your question. First responders could be some paramedics that also on fire, right?
Well, everybody's required to be first responder certified. We have several officers that are EMTs and several paramedics.
There's several firefighters that are EMTs.
But
The EMTs, there is a difference between the EMTs that Chief Hodges has, I believe, and the EMTs that Mrs. McDuffie has in EMS, because the EMTs, correct me if I'm wrong, some of the EMTs are the basic EMTs, which means they're basically qualified to drive the ambulance, administer very little hands-on help, whereas the EMTs that Ms. McDuffie has to hire have to be EMTAs, which is an advanced EMT. They're able to drive, but they're also able to administer meds and things like that. Is that correct?
that's correct. A bunch of ours are the advanced
Okay.
paramedics as well, but the way to look at the job descriptions is we only operate as first responders. Until EMS gets there, then they can operate to their scope.
Right, and then lateral it off. But I do like shifting it from the
Well,
top down to the,
what we're trying to do is increase operational efficiencies
Yeah.
and, or boots on the ground, so to speak, is,
I like that, yeah. That might help you have the other fire stations.
And again, we're not costing any more money, and we're not increasing our number of authorized positions, so we're working within our budget restraints.
Anytime you get the top off and get the boots on the ground. Any other questions, Jesse?
We're okay, both of these at the same time?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, that's why they're written.
So alternative one is to approve the requested changes authorized, as stated above. Motion for alternative number one.
Make a motion to approve alternate number one. Second.
Motion, Mr. Loper, second, Mr. Kiefer, to approve alternative number one. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And carries. Item number four, consideration to approve implemented social media policy for Effingham County.
Yes, sir. A little over a year ago, the board asked us to provide a social media policy, keeping up with today's age with the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and all of those things. What we did was the county clerk and myself went out to different counties to see what kind of policies they had. I went to ACCG, spoke with Mr. Cronin, who's the HR ACCG attorney. We came up with a policy we kind of had our own, and then we tweaked it from what other counties had already approved and reviewed by the ACCG Council. About 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with some department heads concerning Facebook pages and things like that. But what we've done is drafted this social media policy. It's just more protection for the county. It's going to require that if we have any of our employees, that a lot of our employees and a lot of you have Facebook pages, to make sure that they don't identify, or that they identify themselves as a private person. They're not speaking for the board, they're not speaking for the county and things like that. So there's a lot of specifics in this policy that I think is going to lend a lot of protection to the county as far as what can and can't go on Facebook pages, or what employees are allowed to post in regards to the county. And it's also been approved by our staff attorney, county attorney, excuse me.
Yeah, I just have one complaint.
Yes, sir.
12 pages.
Sir?
I have one complaint that's 12 pages.
Yes, it
And
is.
that's a lot of reading. I don't know if I'm going to suggest we find a way through one of our educational programs that we're doing, that we spend 10 or 15 minutes with staff. I can't imagine. By the time I got to page 12, I forgot what was on page 1. So, I just, for it to be, it's good stuff. It sounds very reasonable, but to be practical, we got to be able to communicate this some way. So maybe some kind of abbreviated educational thing, or it's just going to be something we penalize people with versus controlling what they do.
Yes, sir. What we'll do is be able to communicate with the employees. We can actually summarize, like you're saying, hit some of the hot topics, get that out to the employees. And you want this brought back to you then in that same
No, I just,
source?
I'm the board's for, I'm okay with approving that, and see if they appreciate it.
Okay, yes, sir.
Who's going to read 12 pages?
I understand.
So we need something that, if we don't communicate, it's because of the thing we use to penalize you when you do something wrong versus
Right.
And you know how to stay safe and
Yes,
how
sir.
to protect you and our county.
Right.
And so I think something abbreviated might be good to get to the.
And this will also be included in our new employee orientation as one of the policies that's discussed in there as well.
So that'd be great. Now, if you just kind of highlight that covers the basics, and then that will work when you go to the details.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve? Alternative one.
We approve alternative one.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second, Mr. McGee, Mr. Burdette. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 5, consideration to approve a grant award for the Atlanta Hawks Foundation via Georgia Recreation Parks Association, GRPA.
Good evening, Christy Carpenter, Finance Director. The Recreation Department has been awarded a $3,600 grant from the Atlanta Hawks. It's to increase access for youth to play, grow, and learn life and leadership skills through basketball, and staff recommends approving acceptance of that award. Alternative number 1.
Any questions or discussions from Ms. Christie? Have a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternate number 1. Second.
Motion from Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach. Approve alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Consideration to approve a resolution of surplus, item number 6. We actually have the list there before us, and Ms. Field's not here. Is there any questions or concerns? I do see she put the date in there, which is good.
I'll try it. If you notice, you have 2 excavators. One's inoperable on the rear engine. I think that's the 2000 Great All we have, and then we've got a 2007. You're actually opening bids tomorrow for a new excavator for Houston Public Works, so we don't know what that is. That would be traded in as a part of the value there, and then the sheriff has presented you with about 10 vehicles. Mine is the truck and the Durango, and the rest of them were mostly vehicles, as I recall. So Georgia law requires before we can dispose of that property that you declare it surplus.
Absolutely.
They have an auction on the 30th of this month. And that's where we take most of our stuff.
That's good. Well, I noticed they kept most of these vehicles a pretty good while.
Main Brothers.
And there's some of the property behind that.
And the great alls, I don't think we get rid of them because the last several years, as soon as we get them fixed, they last seem like 2 or 3 weeks and they're broken again. And they're specialized equipment, they cost a lot to keep running. And the excavator they're looking at getting, that's going to be a wheeled excavator. So this will be the first time we've had one of those, and they feel that with our drainage, the wheeled excavator will be a big plus.
It's good.
To help with that, maintain our drainage ditches.
I think that was good. Do you have any question, discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. Do alternative number 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Rhodes, second, Mr. Loper, to approve alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. It carries. Did I miss a presentation that was supposed to be done earlier? Okay, good. Item number 7, consideration to approve a resolution recognizing National Library Week.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we received a request from the chair of the library board, Ms. Becky Long, asking that the board consider approval of a resolution recognizing National Library Week, which will be held April 7th through the 13th. You have some information listed in your staff report on the statistics. There's information also listed in the resolution. Upon your approval and upon completion of our new business items, we will present this resolution to one of the hospital, Ms. Kathy.
Thanks for
Is
the
here
news,
to-
Kathy. You got the resolution here now?
I do have it, yes, sir.
We'll go through the stats of the value of our library at that time then.
Yes, sir.
Is there any questions or discussions about the motion to approve the library week?
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach, to approve alternative number 1. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. Item number 8, consideration to approve 3 appointments to the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors.
Yes, sir. You all were previously given this information. We received a request from the chamber. They are seeking to fill new seats on the board of directors. The details of the bylaws for this board is outlined in your staff report. I didn't know if any of you came up with any additional names to include. Okay.
Other than your one,
If you nominate me, yes, sir.
okay, I thought you were okay.
So it's formally, somebody formally nominated, Ms. Johnson.
Yes, yes, I did. I dropped the application form off the chamber this past Thursday. So they had that.
Okay.
So do we need to vote on the 3 nominees tonight, or we just give them 3 suggestions?
If you could just vote to approve, to submit the names, that will be enough for
Even
tonight.
if we don't have the names?
That's correct, sir. As long as we do it by the 27th, I believe was the deadline. Yes, March 27th is the deadline to submit. So if we can just approve to submit 3 names.
All right, alternative 1 is to approve to submit 3 candidates for consideration nomination for Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Deloach, second, Mr. Loper, to approve alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And carries. And last, number 9, the new business is consideration to approve to appoint Janice Bevel to the tax assessor board.
Yes, sir. Ms. Stacy Scott was the appointment for the 2nd district. She submitted a letter of resignation in January of this year. So her term is set to expire on March 31st of 2021. So Ms. Janice would be fulfilling the unexpired term for her. The name submitted by Commissioner Burdette is Ms. Janice Bevel to complete this appointment term.
Does that have to be somebody from the district?
It does not. We found no record that indicates that the individual has to live within the district.
Okay. I'm looking at submission. Would you like to make that in form of a motion?
I make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Commissioner Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Floyd, to approve alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And carries. Okay, that concludes our business. Should we move for the presentation? So
Yes,
we
sir.
can elaborate. Can we come out there? Can we?
If we can get a picture, yes, sir, if you all can come down. And as you're coming down, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and read it while you all are coming down. Whereas National Library Week is a recognition of the essential contributions our libraries provide in promoting reading, lifelong learning, and civic engagement. And whereas Effingham County residents annually make more than 100,000 visits to the Lincoln Library and the Springfield Library, and whereas Effingham County residents annually borrow more than 190,000 books, e-books, audiobooks, and videos, and whereas the Lincoln Library and the Springfield Library staff annually answer more than 90,000 reference questions asked by Effingham County residents, and whereas Effingham County residents annually conduct more than 26,000 computer online sessions at the Lincoln Library and the Springfield Library. Whereas more than 6,800 children and 1,100 adults annually attend programs at the Lincoln and Springfield Library. And whereas the Lincoln Library and the Springfield Library are vital community resources for all Effingham County residents, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, or creed. Therefore, be it resolved that the Effingham County Board of Commissioners proclaim April 7th through 13th of 2019 National Library Week in Effingham County, Georgia, and encourage residents to visit their libraries, read, and make learning a lifelong habit on this 19th day of March, the year of our Lord 2019.
signed, then I'll present it to you. We'll take a picture, okay?
We'll take free last.
I think my wife has about 10% of those visits.
We're happy to help you.
You want to come stand in the middle of us? Right here. Are we getting tight enough?
Peaches.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. One more.
Get it?
Got it.
We put this up here, we get it in the.
Give it to her.
Yeah, we should put it in the library. Place that in the library.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Tell Becky it's all yours.
She's at the regional board meeting.
Okay, we'll move to our staff reports. Mr. Billy, you have anything to report tonight?
Well, just a couple of reminders, and then I do have a handout to I promised you a summary of activity, and I'll hand that to you. But on the reminders, I sent you an email today. There's been some prior discussion about an airport meeting, and I sent you an email, and the state is requesting that one of you commit, one or more of you commit to attending the meeting on May the 7th. You should have that email. Also, we had a meeting last week on McCall Road, and a couple of things came out of that meeting. One of them was the contractor requested or asked, I guess, to if you wanted to put safe stops in, which are the metal items that extend out of the pipe. They normally aren't providing the concrete pipe, so they have to change the insert in order to get them to fit in the concrete pipe. I think they had already ordered them for the galvanized pipe, which of course is going to be replaced with concrete pipe. So they need an answer if there's an objection to that, and I received a response from one of you today to that email. And then secondly, there was some conversation about a right-hand turn lane at Lord Effingham. And I think some of you had expressed disagreement with installing the turn lane there. If you have a problem not providing the turn lane, please let me know so that I can let Hussey Gaybell know. And then I guess the third issue, and I believe I'm correct in saying this, I think there's a consensus to do away with sidewalks there. That money would go an estimated amount of $25,000, I believe, to the park. So that would add to the amount that you previously had allocated to the park from that project or on the tracks had. So that originally was 50, as I understand it, and then this additional 25,000 from the sidewalk. There was, I would say, some discussion about the cost of having to pay additional funding for the inserts in the concrete pipe and some other things. I'm sure that discussion will have to be held another day of diverting some of those funds to pay for the changes. But of course, as you know, there was some controversy over the original design of the material anyway. But that's a conversation for another day. But really, I think they're asking for affirmation of sidewalk elimination. They're asking for consensus on the safe stop inserts in the pipe, and they're asking for consensus on eliminating the right-hand turn at that particular location.
Well, we held a vote, you know, tonight on the sidewalks, on that part of this.
Yeah, but we kind of decided on that one already. And then we're going to come back and present, and I think you'll remember it's not present tonight, are we? Okay. Then we're going to look at, I guess, Michael, to make sure there's no hump in the driveways. They were supposed to look at, when you put the concrete pipe in, they had engineers for metal pipe.
At that meeting, we had, more likely we're going to eliminate all the humps in the driveways.
Okay, good. Just make sure that's done.
Verbally, they said they would do that, yeah. I don't know that anybody, and certainly I haven't received it. Dan injured his knee today, and he wasn't really available to talk to either.
It hasn't been done good, because that's the thing we said, we don't want to get rid of these issues. 60 days from now, have people be back here complaining about humps in the driveways.
Well, they committed verbally, and there were enough of us present that we know that. They committed that the humps would not be humps on the driveway.
But the engineers are going to review the plans and make sure, so they probably have done that, I'm sure.
And that's what we're waiting on, and to the best of my knowledge, those plans have not been submitted to EOM for review. Because
Okay.
one of the things that we required in the first meeting that we had 2 meetings on that now. One of the things that was required was that EOM take a more active role in overseeing the project and even some degree of inspection out there to prevent this kind of communication error from occurring again in the future. So, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know that CJ has submitted those plans to EOM or not. But I do know that we don't necessarily want to hold them up on those issues.
The galvanized pipe, they have inserts as well. This is just going to be a different size insert because it's going to concrete.
Yeah, the concrete pipe, yes, and they're not designed normally, as I understand it, for concrete pipe. You can see those inserts if you ride, particularly along state highway system, you see them. And they're to prevent large debris from going into the pipe. Safety consideration, you know, if there's an accident there, theory, and it has happened, you know, children in a wash get washed into their life. So they're there for
My question was more,
also aesthetic.
my question was more if those inserts were in the original design of concrete pipe before they changed it to the galvanized pipe, the inserts need to be in there without taking anything away from my recreation. That makes sense?
Yeah, well, they must have, I don't want to take anything for granted, but I say that they must have been because they say they had already ordered the inserts for the galvanized pipe.
That's my point. So,
And the problem is that the inserts that they ordered for the galvanized pipe don't fit in the concrete pipe, so they had to order a different insert.
yeah, I understand. I mean, how was that? And just to know, we made note of certain terms that we felt like the original plans that were approved by EOM that went back and said you should have concrete pipe. If it had those stops in it, there should be no reduction in the recreational monies for getting rid of the sidewalks. I just want to make sure we get that on record, and that's what we expect as we move forward with the contract. We're not the ones that changed it.
I think the only issue has been the material of the pipe itself. That changed, but I don't think having an insection should have changed.
But I heard you say that they want to take the stop money, they could replace it and reduce our recreation money. We're going to save the sidewalks. I'll make sure they don't do that.
And I made it clear that we didn't want, it wasn't us that were going to make any reductions on that. And from what I understand, from talking with the engineer, having the inserts for the concrete pipe wasn't a huge extra expense actually. So it would make everything look better. He was all for putting the inserts in.
It was in the original, so they need to do it, and they don't need that.
Yeah, I just wanted to forewarn you, that somebody popped up with that notion, and I just wanted to tell you that that battle may have to be fought.
But since EOM is kind of helping us with that now, y'all make sure it's communicated to them real clear.
Those are standard DOT safety inspections.
Right.
Shouldn't be no issue getting it.
So what we have tonight then is no sidewalks in this year district. And then the right turn lane, I don't see the value in that. I'd like for them to take that off. And put it
That's what I was thinking too.
There's like 3 roads to get to that last road. So there's all kind of ways. If you see that there's a train coming, I don't know if it's going to go bad.
We discussed that too. It didn't really, and if there's a train coming here, held up anyway, it would help. Like, I think he said 3 cars, and then after that, it's just not really a lot of value in it to take up that much. the right of way connected to that yard.
But that's what they did on was the right turn lane, so we can take that money and put it in the recreation trail.
And that would help the in-service system in that program.
Yeah, I would hope that any savings would be diverted toward the park. And talking with Seth, I'm not sure how far that $50,000 originally would actually have gone out there to provide amenities.
Same time for a lot further, so we okay with just say move forward with the in-service, the right turn lane go away, and just
When you're saying instead, you're just making metal, like the intersection?
yeah.
To address it up.
Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And they presented this to the UM, they should approve.
All right.
All right, very good. What else?
That's it, I'll hand this out later.
We're glad you're around to help us with all this stuff. Thank you.
I'm not doing a very good job.
Just keeping me in socket, you'll be good. All right, is there anything else from anyone over here? Okay. Stephanie?
Yes, sir. Very briefly, the chamber is holding their ambassador information session this Thursday at 12 o'clock at First Baptist Church and Fellowship Hall for those who wish to attend. This information you have up there with you is from the Coastal Georgia Regional Water Planning Council. They will be holding a meeting on, where's the date? I lost it. April 23rd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Convention Center on Hutchinson Island. They are asking that if you plan to attend to RSVP by April 9th, so if you all would let me know if you're interested, I will RSVP on your behalf. And lastly, your report, monthly report from EOM for February. You have that there as well.
Do you have anything particular about this report? I'm going to steal your thunder if you got something to share. If there's no other staff reports, we'll see what the commission's have for us.
Oh, I'm glad to see they started, first week, last week, they started putting lines on Old Augusta Road. They had the white lines on there, so you could see the white lines. I hope that they went back and put the other ones they had. They did have the white lines on, because I waited on them about 30 minutes. I got behind that vehicle, and nobody passed, but I did not complain. I just stayed in line right down.
I know you've been wanting that for a long time.
That's good.
So congratulations.
That makes a lot of people happy.
Yes, it was awesome. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Mr. Butch?
I'll be out of pocket a little bit end of this week, beginning of next week. Daughter's going to induce labor with Jenny sometime Thursday afternoon. So if I'm delayed on getting back with you, I'll be new dad to you.
Congrats. That's good. We pray for you.
Congratulations.
Anything else? I'm good. Excuse me. Mr. Floyd? I've got about 16 items I want to discuss. You guys will pull your chain.
Are you serious?
No, I take pull your chain. We got about 7 minutes. When you get about 2 minutes, then we'll take a break for 5 and come back for public hearing. I saw that the local government meeting was being scheduled for here at the county, that I'd be able to provide some food from 5:30 to 6 or 6:30 for all local. Did you see that? There was an email, just to make you aware, I'm checking the calendars. They were suggesting April 4th, April 11th, and I didn't see any way we could do it on the 4th, that's just too quick. They wanted to get, hadn't got all the governors together in a while, and I'd be able to do this, so they were asking, they were going to provide some kind of refreshment, what we want to do it here.
So when is it?
April 11th at 5:30.
April the 11th at 5:30.
So just come and look at that, and we'll, if you follow up, next city email out, if that's still on,
April 11th.
9:30.
At their building?
No, here, they don't do it at the
They
county.
want to do it here.
So
Yeah,
they're providing.
they don't have a big enough place at the IDA office for the school board, the counties and cities and all that, so.
And her letter.
April 11th.
April 11th,
What do they call that meeting?
it's just the local government. Yeah. Yeah. And then I mentioned with Mr. Deloach, Mr. Keeper, about helping me meet with Christie and go over the capital projects and possible funding ideas. And she's got a time at 1 o'clock next, we might be way delayed. Maybe 1 o'clock next Tuesday, they'll be available. If not, we can get together.
Tuesday.
Okay. 1 o'clock Tuesday, if you guys can check the calendar, let me know if that works for you. Did we get any SDS dates from the other cities? We talked last time about checking with them about dates we issued that letter.
No.
Okay, we probably need to make that a priority between you and the clerk about getting with the cities. Because I hate to issue a date and offer a time to come to the table and come out and come. If we can get the dates, they can come and shoot it to us as a board, and we can confirm those dates, and then we can issue that letter knowing it'll happen on that day versus having to reschedule. Just reminding you, while you're here, one thing they asked them to do last meeting was to start reviewing those water and sewer maps for long-range planning, where we need to make sure we're providing water and sewer and what makes sense. And Michael has that on his to-do list, just want to remind you of that, because we're going to need that for service delivery discussions. And then we need to give you some dates sometime tonight about moving forward with these applications for administrative to keep that at the forefront. So maybe tonight or tomorrow, get some dates of doing of applicants. Schedule that, because all our calendars are so busy and needed. Give Mr. Billy some dates. Okay? That's all I've got. So we'll take about a 5-minute break. Use the restroom, we'll come back, public hearing in about 5 minutes.
Hey, Mr. Jack.
We're going to move into our public hearings tonight. This is item number 15 on the agenda, and number 1 public hearing is the planning board recommends denying an application by Gary Rowe of MEGR LLC to rezone 44.4 acres out of 161.38 acres located in Sand Hill Road from AR1 to R1 for a surface mine, map 299, parcel 65 in the 1st district.
So the applicant requests to rezone a portion of this larger parcel, which I can, and that would be sort of the middle area. The application is, our ordinances require that that a rezoning to industrial occur, and that no staff review really of the application other than for zoning has happened, because this is a DNR review for the mining permit. So I consulted with our engineer, Dan, and he said that we wouldn't look at it for LDA or anything like that, because the DNR review really trumps everything, or supersedes everything that we would do. So that is why we recommended, based on the zoning, to approve this. The planning board, as you said, recommended denial.
And you said there's no real basis for denial legally then?
I believe the denial was based on comments made and concerns raised about environmental hazards.
All right, we're going to open the public hearing on this item. Anyone tonight speaking against this rezoning? For this rezoning. Speaking for the rezoning. Not against it, but for it.
Yes, sir, I am, and thank you very much for allowing us to talk. I am the engineer for the project, and my name is Ray Pittman, and I'm with Pittman Engineering. And I'd like to also introduce some fellow colleagues, the owner of the property and the project, Mr. Gary Rowe, and the person who will be operating the borrow pit, Todd Malfris, with me as well. So if we have detailed questions about what the borrow pit is going to consist of, we can answer those as well. But absolutely, and what was mentioned beforehand, this project is basically requesting to rezone approximately 45 acres from AR1 to I1. And the intent for that is strictly to make this into a commercial borrow pit. And this will be a short-term borrow pit. And as a requirement of this zoning request that we put in there as well, we want, after this borrow pit is completed and a reclamation plan has been approved by the state, that we turn this back into AR1, and we basically have a lake that is 20 to 25 acres that is surrounded by nice, large lots. That's it. Now, then in terms of the borrow pit, on the last planning and zoning, I heard loud and clear all the comments, and we've tried to address those as best as possible. Some of the comments that came out, what I'd like to do is go down some of them, if I could, to share with you some of the compromises that we're going to throw into the actual mining permit design itself, and is committed by Mr. Gary Rowe as well. First of all, the borrow pit, it's anticipated that the borrow pit will be in operation approximately 5 years. That's it. And then again, after 5 years, we anticipate that we'll do a reclamation plan and turn it into a lake with residential lots. In addition to that, we're planning on, the lake will be approximately 20 to 30 acres. It's proposed that the borrow pit is simply a borrow pit. We are not processing sand. We are not dredging sand. We are simply going in with a high hoe, and we are basically digging with a high hoe and putting it into a dump truck and then taking it off site. And then I know that the questions have came up, and I go through these as well. And the first question that came up was noise. How are you going to address noise? There are 3 different ways that we're addressing noise right here. Number one is we automatically, per the zoning requirements, is we have to have a 150-foot buffer around the entire perimeter of the property. And that's a requirement of the Effingham zoning requirement currently. The next item is we will install and utilize electric pumps to keep the noise level to an absolute minimum. And again, you can't hear them. We absolutely, we tried, we looked at the diesel generators, for example, to see about sound, and we wanted, and the requirements that I recommended is that we wanted to go to the property line, and we wanted to have the noise level be at or lower than inside a library. That was what we were trying to do. That was because we want to be a good neighbor. We do not want to do anything detrimental to anybody. The next item that we wanted to do as well is if we can get a DOT encroachment permit, we would like to but to construct a new entrance into the borrow pit, which will be centered. And currently we have about 1,000 feet of frontage on Sand Hill Road. So we would like to put the new entrance about 500 feet from each neighbor over there, just so that we can be good neighbors. And it's good for us, and it's good for them, it's good for everybody, I do believe. That'll cut down on the noise as well. The third thing that we'd like to do is we want to make sure, and the owner's done this as well, he's going to restrict the borrow pit operation so that there is no material that is brought back into our borrow pit, into our lake, to dispose of at the bottom of it. And that's where you get the clanging of the tailgate from the dump truck. So there'll be no clanging of the tailgates themselves. So we're trying to minimize the noise factor itself. For dust management, what we're going to have to do, and this is a component of each and every mining permit that you have to submit to the state. And again, we've got to submit to the state, and then we have to monitor for the entire duration of the permit itself. But we have to control dust, and some of the ways that we're going to control dust is, as you know, we're going to have the well, or not the mud hog basically, and we're either going to have an irrigation system or else we're going to have a watering truck. So if it gets a little dusty, we'll go out there and we'll dampen the material so that we don't have dust. Plus, in addition, we're relocating that entrance if we can get the DOT permit so that we're further away from everybody. So those are the ways that we're going to try to mitigate for the dust control. Dirt on the road. The way that we're going to do the dirt on the road is we're going to enlarge the shaker bed. So the shaker bed is before the truck gets out on the road. And trust me, we don't want the dirt on the road as well. And Todd definitely doesn't want the dirt on the road because it costs money and it costs time. So the objective is to enlarge the shaker bed so that we remove the dirt from the truck's wheels before it gets out onto the road itself. The next item is the setbacks. Again, per your ordinance currently, for us to have a borrow pit, we've got to stick with the zoning criteria for an I-1. An I-1 that you have indicates that it's mandatory that you have a buffer of 150 feet around the entire perimeter of your piece of property. Again, when it reverts back to the AR1, then the buffer requirement will go away. But again, during the operation of the borrow pit itself, we're going to stick with that. Hours of operation. The owners already agreed that the hours of operation will be during daylight hours, Monday through Saturday. No nighttime and no Sunday digging at all. Wetland impacts. We've looked at the site and we've done some cursory reviews of the wetlands, and currently we anticipate no wetland impacts for any of our project. Traffic. Traffic, by us basically shifting the entrance coming into our borrow pit into the center, again, we anticipate that probably on the maximum usage of the borrow pit, we'll probably have on average about 10 vehicles per hour, which is not a lot for that particular road. And the sight distance, we've looked at it, the sight distance is appropriate for this speed limit as well. Stormwater discharge from the commercial borrow pit. Again, we will be using an electric pump. The electric pump will pump out into, it's basically a very large pillowcase. This filter dumps into the pillowcase and it filters through, it basically oozes out the pillowcase. It's a fabric material. And then from that pillowcase, it actually runs into a settling basin. And then from there, it will go out into the natural drainage system itself. And again, we've got the LiDAR topography that we'll be utilizing for our mining operations to make sure that we're not causing or aggravating any stormwater to any of our neighbors. Stormwater problems. It was indicated that some of the neighbors felt like that there was existing drainage problems right now that were associated with our property. And what our owner and what Todd has indicated is that if there's any type of berm or there's any type of blockage that's on the perimeter of our property that's blocking any drainage, before this operation occurs, that he will actually go in there, remove those blockages and clean them out so that we got proper drainage for everybody. I think we've tried to address each and all the concerns of the residents. I know that we want to be a good neighbor. And I know that we want to do what's right. Thank you.
Right there, is these items that is listed, could they be conditions of the rezoning, or are they just at faith value award of the home and developer?
If you want to turn them into stipulations.
Demolition, I was the DOT approval of the driveway, because I've talked to several citizens. The only thing that wasn't addressed, one of the citizens that called was concerned about issues with their deep well. Now, you said there was going to be no dredging operations, and y'all were going to go 40 feet.
Approximately 40 feet, that is correct.
So, would I'm not familiar, but should that impact any deep wells in the area?
That will impact no deep wells.
About 200.
That's what I thought.
I think
Yeah.
the impact though would be if there's runoff and drainage to where the pipe goes in the ground, that's where you get contaminants, you know, but he's often in control of that water.
Right, he's
That's
addressed pretty much
what
everything from the calls that I've had, so I really agree with that.
Right.
But,
But that's one thing, so if those conditions could be added to, should there be a motion to improve it later, we'll see what happens. That would be good to state those things, but to get them as part of the conditional.
Oh, absolutely. We welcome that. We welcome that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, anyone else speak, thank you. Anyone else speaking for this rezoning tonight? Is anyone here tonight that would like to speak against this rezoning? Yes, sir, if you come to the mic, state your name and
Good evening, my name is David Woods. I got up here and spoke the last time, and I'm totally against it. But I would first like to say I commend you all for actually coming better prepared this time and somewhat better answers to what our concerns were. I, for one, number one, I live right across from where the entrance of this place is. However, if you move the driveway, it's going to put the driveway of all the dump trucks, whatever equipment they're going to be bringing in and out, right in front of my driveway. So I don't know how that's going to entail with, you know, me going out of my home or whatever. So just maybe look at that in consideration to if it's granted or denied, whatever this time. My other concern, again, is the stormwater runoff and things like that. I also own a 5-acre tract of property that goes back to the Ogeechee River. I own 1 acre on the Ogeechee River, and just last year alone I spent over a couple of $1,000s in my roadway because of the other sand plant operations back there, building up roads, whatever, for their equipment and all. I don't feel has the proper runoff, so entails it's messing up my road back there. So that would be one of my concerns, number one, for residents on the other side of Sand Hill Road where this operation will be taking place, because I already understand the headaches of such things as that, and I don't want them to have those kind of headaches as well. Once again, I commend you all for, you know, coming better prepared this time with answers. I kind of like what I heard tonight. I'm not going to say that I'm totally against it, because in the very near future I'm wanting to build, you know, my dream home over there on that lot and move out of a mobile home. At that time I'm going to need dirt, so, you know, I can't be against this type of operation. I understand that something like this has to take place in order for everybody to, you know, live. So thanks for your time, and may we all make the right decisions.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else tonight would like to speak against this rezoning? Yes, sir. You can come to the mic and state your name.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners all, I'm Richard Saxon. lifelong fellow of Effingham County. I own 23 plus acres which joins this project. And I have heard some encouraging words tonight from the gentleman before. Of course I don't want that in my backyard, but it sounds like in the future that it will probably work out fine. I do have some wetland on the back of my property that joins that property, and that wetland for me is actually a good barrier for a lot of activities that goes on back there, and I do not want that destroyed. I don't want it dried up. I like it. Sometimes it's usually some water standing around there, and it's not accessible unless you want to wade. I did hear the gentleman say that he wanted to move the entrance to their borrow pit to the center of that property. I would like to mention to you that that property there is very low. It is, it's actually a watershed to the Ogeechee River, as the gentleman before me spoke. And I would like to know that that is not going to be impacted in any way. That is a wetland, a natural tributary to the Ogeechee River. And I wouldn't want that blocked up in any way.
Just not to interrupt you, but I think this wetland impact permit is going to, it'll be, this plan will be approved by that. I mean, it's subject to the wetland not being disturbed.
Okay, it's not allowed.
I was going to answer this question for this gentleman right quick, so I know my mind.
Whenever we discussed this also, whenever I brought it up to Mr. Pittman about the concerns of this, Mr. Harrington on the other side first contacted me, asking about possible moving it away from his house. And then Mr. Pittman said they found some higher property where they move the driveway. So if you want to address that.
That is correct.
Address that and the impact on wetlands real quickly.
Yeah, we do not anticipate impacting any wetlands. It is not our desire to at all. What we've noticed so far.
Corps will not let you, is that correct?
That is correct. We cannot impact any wetlands without getting a Corps of Engineer permit to impact those. And typically, the price to impact wetlands is very, very expensive.
That's expensive.
It's extremely expensive. But what we've identified, we think, and we haven't officially got all the wetlands done, it appears that directly adjacent to the existing entrance coming into our site, there's wetlands for probably 100 foot or 200 feet. I guess down the road, and then there's highland, there's upland, about 500 feet right in the middle of the property, and then a couple hundred feet beyond that, there's wetlands again. So there appears to be a corridor of about a couple hundred feet that is uplands that you could put the road through there. So that is our intent, is to go and not impact wetlands, because it's, number one, it's expensive, and we do not wish to impact any wetlands at all.
Well, thank you. I just want to get that. You go ahead and continue. I didn't want to interrupt you, but as you raise questions, I want to try to get answers for myself as well.
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
Has the Corps already signed off on the wetlands? Corps of Engineers?
There is an old expired jurisdictional determination, and we need to revise that and get that updated prior to us getting an official, before we actually do a mining design itself. But the expired one, it shows that we've got uplands going through there. And Mr. Todd Malthus has walked the site, and he also feels comfortable that there's a corridor of uplands in between the two wetlands.
Okay. Sir, go ahead and continue to
I'd like to say most of my concerns were answered, and they were positive answers, and I feel better about it. I still have some concerns. I did have one other. I wanted to know, I haven't seen anything that I know of that says exactly where the bar pit's going in conjunction with property line. Now, how far is the edge of that pit going to encroach upon other folks' property line? Is there some, can you give me an answer on that?
Yes, sir. It'll be a generic answer, but the closest that the top of the berm, or not the berm, but the actual borrow pit can be to any property line is 150 feet. In a lot of areas, we're not going to be able to get the 150 feet. It's going to be 175 feet. It's going to be 200 feet because we have wetlands, because we have other obstacles that we have to work around.
Well, my house, my home actually sits probably within 150 yards of that property line. And that's some of the reasons I want to know. But other than that, you know, if the guidelines are put upon this contractor to do what he says he's going to do, maybe it'll be a good project. Of course, I've seen about all the growing and stuff I want to see around this county, but I guess I won't live long enough for it to get me completely under. But I just thank you for your time, and we'll see where it goes. Like I said, these were concerns, and was good concerns that I've heard, and they were addressed, and I just wanted to bring them before you before they became issues. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Is there anyone that wants to speak against? Do you have something new, or if you just want to say, I agree with what's been shared?
Hi, my name is Suzette Schmetz, and we live adjacent to the proposed industry. We have 37 acres that's adjacent to it. And you know, I'm a little concerned about it negatively impacting our residential community. You know, I don't really want to sit on my back porch and hear trucks going in and out all day. You know, when you know, we have a really quiet, nice, you know, acreage there.
Sure.
So, you know, that's a concern. You know, another concern is, I know it doesn't, you said it doesn't affect deep wells, but we have a shallow well. You know, what's the impact on that? And then again, you know, just concern about flooding, and I know he's addressed those issues.
Well, his plans would have to show that it's not going to cause flooding. There's these laws or zoning in place that means you cannot put your water on somebody else's property without being monitored. I'm assuming that approval. You got conditional things that have to be applied to make sure this goes forward.
Right, one of the conditions we recommend is that site development plans comply with the county's water resource protection ordinance and the stormwater management local design manual.
So we're going to make sure that they didn't leave the property, it stays on their property.
And that was another
That's
question, I'm sorry, that was another question I had. How are we protected? Like who's going to protect us to make sure that they do what they say they're going to do?
Certain things will be the county and the stipulations and such, but a lot of the operations will be probably by the EPD, Department of Natural Resources.
Okay.
Just earlier tonight, we reclaimed a mine that we had, surface mine, that EPD was monitoring and told us what we had to do to do it correctly. So they'll be monitoring some of that. Then our engineers will read the plans and make sure that the water's not leaving any faster than it is right now.
Okay. And then they're going to correct the drainage. There was a federal drainage, a federal. It's a federal wetland delineated drainage area that was covered up by the last developers. They did. I understand they would correct that because it caused flooding on our property.
Mr. Pittman, do you want to address that? Is that? I think I heard you say you were trying to correct some drainage issues in the previous statement.
Correct. Again, we cannot impact any wetlands whatsoever. So after the wetlands are delineated, if there's something that's inside a wetland, unfortunately, we can't impact that at all unless we get some type of permission from the Corps to do that. However, if we have adjacent piles or berms or anything like that that's out there that's blocking surface water runoff, we will get in there and we will clear that off.
And that should help with proper drainage.
And if...
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
And then would it be possible to put up fencing between the properties that are adjacent to your industry, just for the protection of our children?
That's not usually what is done.
Yeah.
Usually it's a berm that they put in that 150-foot buffer.
Okay.
So, for example, if the gentleman just spoke while ago and said it's 150 yards, which would be 450 foot, but that's 500 foot. So our hood children will not travel 500 feet and climb a berm. It'd be a long ways. So
okay.
It's a pretty good bit of berm and distance there. We have one near where I live that some folks spoke against. Some of the same things tonight that were lifted up. I just looked this up to you. That it does hasn't been an issue. They kept the water up and down. It hasn't been a noise issue for our community. And when they get through, in about 3 more years, there'll be a nice subdivision out there. And I would contend that that pit might help with detention of water in the future as well. When you have a really big 100-year rain, there's a place where that water can go for a little bit so it creates less flood. So probably would be some benefits in the future that you would read in this. Because we're not fixing to turn this into an industrial manufacturing. It'll go back to residential.
Okay, and then when will it start? When will you be starting?
I would anticipate the first thing we've got to do is get the wetland delineation done initially, and then we will do a design after we perform or get the wetland delineation done. The state permitting process is in the neighborhood of 90 days to 180 days to get approval from the state. And again, the state requires that we do all the land disturbing permit activities in compliance with their requirements, meaning that we maintain all sedimentation erosion control, we do dust control, we make sure that the dirt doesn't go out onto the road. We also have to monitor and maintain stormwater for until the mine is reclaimed, basically, and you got to slope back the banks and et cetera. So all of those conditions are done, and in addition to that, the monitoring operation is continuous. And then at the end of your actual mining, not mining, but borrow pit operations, you actually go to the state, submit all your documentation, and you're submitting it all along as well to prove that you've kept it intact with the state guidelines. And then you ask what happens if, I know the monitoring was a question, what happens if you violate the state's requirements? Well, Mr. Gary Rowe, he can go to jail. If he violates the rules of the state, he could be penalized with financial fines, etc. So it's in our best interest, and it's in our best interest to make sure we police ourselves. And again, if you see us in violation, call. We want you to call us. Let us know. We want to be a good neighbor. We don't want to be a bad neighbor at all. We want to help. And again, at the end of the period when the borrow pit is completely reclaimed, we anticipate turning it back into an AR1 residential neighborhood. And trust me, in places throughout the coastal area, dirt is a commodity. And there's not a lot of good dirt in the coastal area of Georgia, unfortunately. We wish there was, but there's not.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything additional that has already been shared tonight? I'll ask you to kind of keep it to something additional.
Jay Schmetz, same property, and I'm pretty much just, like, I have a wetland delineation of our property, and what was done there, somebody raised a lot of land right there, like probably a good, in that frontal area there, it's been raised. And I believe it was from the previous owners, but it has impacted our property greatly. I mean, I go back there now, and by now it should be drained out, and it's just all wet and soggy. You can barely walk through it. Even it's almost like a foot of just soft dirt that you walk through. And it's been directly, it was different before they had built it up. And so, again, that's probably just like I can look at this wetland here, and it also shows it was like a federally recognized water drain. The way that the wetland there drained, and it was all clogged up. And again, I'm just making that note of the flooding that we have back there, because it seems to be far worse than previous before that. And that's not something that they did, I don't believe. It was EH Fortitude, I think, I think they owned it before that. And if that can be addressed, it's certainly much better for me. I mean, you can see it right on this map that I have right here where we had a wetland delineation done, and you can see where it comes right up to the property and then where it's just blocked off. And that's just my point with it.
Thank you, sir. I guess the two thoughts I have, and engineers can correct me on this, but one, you can't let the water leak the land any faster than it does now. That'll be addressed. And the bigger concern is not flooding caused by the 22 acres, but the drying up of property from the wetlands. And that concern, as you did this, and the groundwater flows into this less dense area, it's going to pull water. So probably the great concern is not that there will be flooding, but that there'd be a drying of the wetlands, which EPD will regulate to make sure that doesn't happen.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Does that make sense? As eventually, when it's done, it should be less issue of flooding because there is, so to speak, a retention area that's not dense now with dirt, so the water can go there. So at the end of 5 years, you should have a lot better, as long as it doesn't impact wetlands.
Correct.
Flooding should not be an issue, is my understanding.
That is correct. And the pool water elevation of the lake, that's what it's going to result in is a lake. The pool elevation will be basically where the groundwater table is, which will probably be about 5 feet below the existing ground. That's where the groundwater table is typically, right there. So that's what it will be. Again, the monitoring, like you mentioned, we have to maintain the pre-developed runoff rate for all of our designs. We have to. That is a requirement of the state. That's your requirement as well.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the monitoring is done by the state. And again, it's in the owner's best interest to make sure that we do our jobs because he's financially responsible for everything that we do.
Okay. Anyone else that wants to add anything different? Save us a little bit of time if there's things that you agree with, say I agree with all that you said, and just add the new nuances that you'd like to share.
And no, the only the situation I have with it is my property resides slap in the middle of it.
between the graveyard and, you know, where they were initially wanting to put the entrance. If you move that entrance, I have babies who have to board a school bus. So I already have an existing sand plant that is behind me, but now I'm gonna have to worry about the trucks entering midst of the whole property line, which is gonna put my babies in danger. I mean, I don't feel safe with it. We have enough trouble and traffic as is on that road. And then speaking of things backing up, my property runs where the creek bed runs. So where the drain field is now in the ditch, it's clogged with trash. There's nobody out there county-wise cleaning it up. So when the river rises and that creek bed rises, it goes into my home. So I think with the trucks coming in and out, we're gonna have more of a trash issue. So who's gonna handle all that river or creek bed flow that's butting to the existing land between the graveyard and where they're wanting this plant to go?
Please state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Courtney Heller.
Well, I think if you have a complaint about the blocked ditch, our public works can send a crew out, because I mean, they will respond to those kind of concerns.
Yeah, that's probably going to be a little bit of different issue. And our EOM public director overseers here, you might not know where that ditch is, and so they take a look and see what we do, make sure it's cleaned out. Okay. Okay, anybody with any additional to add to an objection to this rezone? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Is there any question or additional discussion from anyone on the board?
Explained very well to me.
Yes, good information on both sides, appreciate it. Seeing no other question or discussion on the board, I entertain a motion.
I first want to say I talked to several citizens and I've tried to address their concerns, and Mr. Pittman and his group has worked diligently to try to address those. And that's whenever I think government works best, when we try to hear the concerns of citizens and have the developer or whoever address those and try to work with the community. With that said, I want to make a motion to approve this with staff recommendation, alternative 1, with the fact that it's going to be, all pump operations will be by electric pump. The driveway will be moved more towards the center of DOT approval. Daylight hours are only 6 days a week, no Sundays. And then it will be reverted back to AR1 as you said. That's right. With that, that's my motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper, to approve this rezone with stipulation, approving alternative 1 stipulation of, make sure we get these for.
Yes, please.
Okay, which is electric pump, driveway, potentially work to the middle, daylight hours, nothing on the weekends.
It's no on Sunday. Nothing on Sunday.
Sundays. The company said weekends are open.
That's 6 days a week.
6 days, okay. That's 3 hours, 6 days a week. Okay. And what was the last one? I missed the last one.
It'll revert back to AR1.
Yeah, I think that's part of the original alternative 1 was AR1. Okay, so we have really 4 things.
And no nighttime, but we said daylight hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Electric pump, driveway, daylight hours. Okay. Have a motion and a second. Mr. Lupo, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it carries. Second reading, second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of the application by Gary Road.
That's just a good stipulation on the
Stipulation.
Oh, I got you. Okay, good point. Because we have stipulations, with the second reading can't be approved to the next meeting. Anytime we add to the motion, okay, so the second reading is approved, will be at the next meeting.
So we take the next commission meeting or planning zone?
Commissioners meeting, which is April 2nd.
April 2nd.
At 5 o'clock.
And that will be in the old business section. So
Yeah, it'll be first to do
It
it.
will be old business, and it is not a public hearing, so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we got number 3, on the public hearing, the planning board recommends denying an application by Greenwood Woods for variance to allow a camper as a temporary residence during the construction of a home located at 34 Eaton, Highway 17 South, map number 325, parcel number 10, first district.
So we received an application for a variance to allow campers a temporary residence. As no building permit has been applied for, as just didn't seem like an actual hardship or no evidence or no background was provided, staff felt we should recommend denial of this. And Mr. Woods did not appear at the planning board meeting, and so the planning board decided to deny the request.
Okay. Mr. Woods here tonight? Is Mr. Woods here tonight to speak for this variance? Okay. Anyone here to speak against this variance? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and see if there's any questions, discussion on the motion by the board.
I've spoken with the gentleman and he just looked at his camera.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously,
No, yeah, I was coming prepared to argue for him if he buys a building permit and build in 6 months.
I told him that probably not to start a process of a direction plan.
Yeah.
And show it to the meeting also.
Even having plans, it'll take us a few months to do plans. All right, you have a motion for us?
So alternative to it to deny the request for variance.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Deloach, for alternative two to deny the request. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Carries.
I do think we should look at that ordinance with certain zones, to be able to kind of address some of this at staff level.
They need to have,
I have no issues, you know, in those situations, somebody is legitimately, set those parameters, maybe you have to have a building permit.
Yeah.
they need a building permit.
Building permit plans.
We know they don't build a house.
Yeah. Yeah, building permit.
Anyway, it'll just keep.
Usually, maybe staff to make the decision.
Possibly or something,
Anything goes beyond 6 months, it comes to the board. Yeah, I'll look at that.
It's up to the originally did, so.
Yeah. I was all for it, guys, building the house. There's a lot more done if you own the property. You actually own it. Item number 5, planning board recommends approving the application by Hans Viss to rezone 1.61 acres located on Roebling Road from R2 to B2 to allow for a race shop, map number 377, parcel number 5 and 6 in the first district.
So Mr. Bliss, Mr. Bliss wishes to rezone the property. It was originally rezoned, it's been rezoned a couple of times. He rezoned it to do multifamily, and then that didn't work out, and has decided to place an automotive shop, repair shop for the racetrack. And so the first step is to come through and request a rezoning to the appropriate B2 category to allow that. And staff recommended approval, and the planning board recommended approval as well.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone speaking for this rezoning tonight?
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. Yes, it was mentioned before, it's been almost 2 years working with the Georgia Small Business Development Center, trying to put something here to help the community, the racetrack. This is the 60th year anniversary for the track, so they do an awesome job trying to keep it moving, but there is a lot of racetracks improving and offering better services. So this idea is to basically take advantage of all the aerospace knowledge that we have around here and service also the track users that come from other states and in some occasions out of the states, you know, internationally, Europe, South America, to come to the facility. The idea is to have the same business hours as the racetrack, so we are not going to cause any disruptions to the neighborhood. And if you have, you know, comments, let me know and I will try to address them.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else speaking for this rezoning? Is anybody speaking against the rezoning, if you're going to speak against it?
Oh, I thought you said for it.
For it, yeah. I'm just trying to see, before we spend a lot of time talking for it, I don't know if there's any opposition to this, so.
Okay.
You're welcome to speak, but I just want to see if there's anybody who's not speaking against this rezoning. And I don't see anyone, so you're welcome to talk for it, but I don't know if it's necessary.
Thank you. I'm Jack Abbott, track manager of Roebling Road. I just want to say, yes, it's 60 years Roebling Road's been there, and we give back to the community. And we would really appreciate a plus if we could do have this race shop for all the racers that comes there. It's just right adjacent to our property, and he's got a picture of the building he's proposed to build, and it doesn't look like a race shop. This is a unique building, and if you want to show them, I think it would be a plus.
Well, are they going to carry race gear, and is it going to be retail also, or just merely repairs?
The main purpose is repair, but as I said before, I have kind of a aerospace background, and right now we are developing this kind of cars, this high-tech, high performance stuff that I believe we can use all the knowledge that is around here. But it's not going to be it's going to be manufactured overseas, but maybe final touches here and testing on the track.
Anybody else speaking for? I asked one last time, anyone tonight speaking against this rezoning? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Any question, discussion from members of the board? Do I have a motion?
I recommend we approve the staff recommendation on approval for this request.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette, to approve staff recommendations alternative 1. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. Move to the second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of application by Hans Bliss to rezone 1.61 acres located on Roebling Road from R2 to B2 to allow for race shop map, map number 377, parcel number 5 and 6 from the first district. Have a motion for second reading.
I make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second. Motion Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Carries. Item number 7, in the public hearing, the planning board recommends approving the application by Clifton Hall and Deborah Sterling for advance to allow a 30-foot easement to a landlocked parcel located at 229 Highway 17 North, map number 269, parcel number 28 and 23 in the 3rd district.
Yes, so the applicant, the easement is in reference to that large parcel outlined in aqua up there, and then the easement would run on 30 feet rather than the usual 60, just because of the way the development, the improvements have happened. It's just one of those things where they want to sell it, have to provide an easement, and there's unfortunately not space for the 60-foot easement. Staff recommended approval and made recommended stipulations, and the planning board agreed and recommended approval with those stipulations. However, once the attorney and once Lee looked at it, he recommended that we refine those stipulations a little bit, and what we'll do is include those in the zoning map amendment if you should choose to approve this. And the stipulations that he's recommending are that we may want to limit the use of the easement to only this parcel, and that no adjacent parcels, and that the easement would need to increase to 60 feet if there were any future subdivision of that large tract. Our understanding currently is that the owners are selling that, a single-family home will be built, and the family buying it intend to just enjoy the acreage. But in the future, if that were to change, we would include in the zoning map amendment that the easement would have to revert, or we would have to find a way to make a 60-foot easement.
Yeah, I like that, because I saw no problem with a 30-foot easement, that size piece of property, they tried to develop it. Exactly. It create all kinds of headaches.
And also that we will require that the easement be included on the plat before I can sign it. So.
So this is a variance, so I guess we need to still have a public hearing. So we'll open a public hearing. Anyone need to speak for this variance? And while you're coming, I just want to get a sense, is anyone tonight speaking against this variance? If you raise your hand, just so I can know.
You or me? What's that?
Who's going to speak, you or me?
Oh, you can.
Is there no one tonight speaking against this variance? Okay. Just want to make sure we're going to make opposition. Go ahead, Sheriff. if you want to.
I'm Charles Way. I'm helping Mr. Hall with the access to this property. We've discussed this with the potential buyers. They have no desire to develop it. I spoke with staff at length about this. Everybody understands that you cannot develop a subdivision with a 30-foot wide access. And if anyone attempts to rezone the property in the future, they'll have to have suitable access. There's no rezoning attached to this request. It's simply that this property was platted in a way years and years ago that does not meet sufficient access standards. So we're trying to give them basically just a single family driveway through an existing property. We've already drafted a plat that shows the easement, and that's ready to be reviewed by staff as soon as this request is approved.
Anyone tonight that would like to speak against, one last time. Anyone who would speak against this variance? See no one, I'll close the public hearing. And if there's a need for discussion or question, we'll hear it now. And I would ask that you restate the, looking for a motion for alternative one with the following stipulations.
Yes, we're looking, staff recommends alternative one, approve this variance with the following additional stipulations. Limiting the use of the easement to this parcel in question, 269-2A, 20A. The easement would need to increase to 60 feet for any future subdivision of that parcel, and also that the easement be shown on the plat in order to be approved by the zoning office.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion with alternative one and stipulations that were just read. And I note those. And first Mr. Loach, right? Second Mr. Loach. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. Thank you. And we'll have to do the second reading at the next because we have stipulations, but we don't anticipate any issues, not another public hearing. Okay?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. If I can get clarification on this motion, is it along with staff's recommendation and the additional stipulations?
Yes.
Or just? Okay.
Motion with alternative one, which is staff recommendation, right?
Alternative one doesn't include her stipulations.
No, it's alternative one plus those three stipulations. That's what the motion was.
But if you read alternative one, it says approve a variance to allow a 30-foot easement instead of the required 60-foot easement to a landlocked parcel as noted under facts and findings number 3.
Right, we're approving that now.
Along with those stipulations.
Along with the three stipulations.
Just asking for clarification.
Yeah, that's what it was. Alternative one with the following three stipulations, limit to the property to the owner's access only. You gave the extra lot number, it's fine. 60 foot if they subdivide it in the future, and the easement would be shown flat. Those are the three conditions. Added to alternative number one. Okay? We have motion second, and it was approved. Second reading will be on April the 2nd. Item number 9, public hearing. The planning board recommends denying an application by Chris Garcia to rezone 16 acres located 3554 Highway 21 North from R4, B3, R2 to I1. Map number 350, parcel number 8, 8A, 9, map number 316, parcel number 30, in the 3rd district.
So there are 4 parcels in question here, and the applicant is requesting that they all be rezoned under common zoning. They are currently split, and let me see if I can get the map to show. This is the current, as you can see, the zoning is, there's a variety of zonings. Oh, I can't, hold on, I'm sorry. There we go. There's a variety of zonings due to the previous owners hope rezoning it kind of piecemeal over the years in order to have a dog training facility. So there's a metal building with a dirt floor that was used for, I believe, dog training. And so this was all agreed on or approved many years ago. And at this time, the different zonings that are represented here, there's R4 and B3 and RKR2. None of those support the proposed use. So the applicant is asking that all of these parcels be rezoned under a common I-1 industrial zone to allow for manufacturing plant or facility, which is in support of, I believe, Gulfstream or Harrison. Gulfstream.
A bill on that map is a little different from what I'm looking at here, I think. Do outline of everything that's being requested to rezone in the cursor.
Okay, let's go back to, I'm sorry, I don't have the handle on these screens here. All right, this,
That one I see.
3, 4. These are the 4 parcels here.
Correct. Okay, and that was on the other map, it was parcels on the other side that we had tracked, like they were circles. Okay, I got you. Do you have a larger area map? So I'm not familiar where exactly this is.
Yes, I did.
Maybe the rest of the board is, but is it above 275, below 275?
It's up above.
It's that way.
Not halfway between here and
So we're going north,
Which
Fort
road?
Springfield.
It's north of Springfield.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to find it. Really location.
Jesus Christ.
I'm trying to pull it out here a little bit. See where
It's on the other side of the fire department.
I got you. I know you're talking about that.
Okay. Yeah, I just.
6 miles north of 119.
Yeah, I'm more familiar now, that's why I couldn't locate it. I'm trying to find it. All right, very good, that helps a lot. Okay, is anyone tonight wanting to speak for this rezoning?
Good evening. My name is Chris Burnson. I'm here to speak for it. It's a property that was coming up for sale. We wanted to rezone it for I-1 for light industrial because we manufacture parts for Gulfstream. Because it had a current building there, we wanted to utilize the current building. So we went through the proper channels of submitting the application for that. And I know we have a lot of residents here trying to oppose it, and I understand we're not trying to make anybody upset about it, but my concern or my question is to clarify criteria is the planning board denied it because of spot zoning. So what's the criteria for spot zoning? So that way I don't waste my time and your time with spot zoning if that's really what it's being denied for. Because 3 miles south of that was approved for industrial on the same state highway, just north of here. So if that's spot zoning, where I'm asking the criteria, is there a radius?
Spot zoning is really not a legal term, it's really just kind of what one may think is spot zoning. You know what I mean? There are no.
Right, well that was the motion they denied it on was spot zoning.
Yeah.
So my question is, what's the criteria for spot zoning?
Well, and part of that, as you said, there's a national plan that was done years ago where they determined certain area was residential and rural, and we want to maintain that character. But as you move south of Springfield, you understand that that's going to be more commercial, and there's certain industrial areas we've set up. And I don't know when the industrial area you're talking about was done.
3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
I'm guessing 3 or 4 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I can look and see. So that spot zoning is sort of subjective, but it's based on the overall master plan trying to locate areas where we like industry to be located. And there's several large industrial tracts that would be perfect for that type of business. And that's what we're going to try to limit, because we've got like 4 major large industrial tracts now. That,
I know.
Yeah,
I've talked to the IDA, you should try it. They don't want to help.
Okay. We have some other properties we can talk to you about that might help you with that as well. But that's an issue. So that's kind of spot on. I'm trying to stay a character so that you have an area where you know it's going to go up for rural and farming and residential.
Right.
And it won't be
Yeah, and I understand. This is my first time going through this, so I understand completely. But when they denied it for spot zoning, I just wanted to know what the criteria was, if there's mileage, because when they said that, I was just trying to figure out. So I don't waste time, our time doing it, or the county's time with going through all this application and reviewing it and the planning board meeting and all that. We didn't want to do that.
One thing you might do to help you answer that question is there is a sort of master plan that talks about where the rural and residential areas are that Teresa and the zoning area can kind of help you say this might be considered spot zoning because it doesn't stay with the character. And then talking to the commissioner in that particular area, they probably can give you some ideas that this is something that would be good to move forward on, or probably not. They should look. They might have two ways so that you can move a little more rapidly and trying to locate a good spot for this type of industry.
Right, and that's my question, because when I did my research after planning board denied it, I found 3 miles south on the same state highway there was industrial zoning, and it's over 8 miles away from the nearest industrial in the county. So I'm like, well, if that's spot zoning where I'm at, I was trying to figure out what the criteria was for how that got approved for zoning, if that's considered spot zoning. That's what I was trying to understand.
Yes, before some of our time on this board, I have to go back and look and see what the reason was. Any light there?
That was done back in 2014, the property he's referring to, which was before I was on.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably before most of us were on the board.
This is the applicant's property here, and then this is the only other lot that's zoned industrial.
What is that?
Up here, where moving.
I know that's what it is. What's that blue?
This aqua blue is industrial zoning, so there is that one very close to Springfield.
John Burns is still over there.
Is that where there was an industry there years ago? Is that the same area?
It's been the store for 40 plus years.
Oh, that's the feed store there.
That is, yes, 42 acres there. I think they rezoned this industrial for the feed store.
Ever since I've been living,
It's next to it.
been a store.
You got a logging operation where it's shipping logs overseas. That's his own thing.
Yeah, I know the concerns from the residents were, we do light manufacturing. They were thinking we were going to come in, smokestacks and a lot of chemicals. Everything we do is water soluble. We don't have smokestacks. You won't even hardly hear us run. Jamie come out to our facility. You don't hear anything really running because we have machines, enclosed machine centers on the inside. Not a large bunch of trucks running in and out at all hours of the night. We run a day shift only. We was trying to limit the concerns of the opposition. So.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else tonight speaking for this rezoning? Anyone tonight that would like to speak against this rezoning? All right. Why don't you get a spokesperson or two and let them share the concerns that you have, and I'll expedite it if we don't repeat the same things, but we do want to hear your concerns.
Is there currently a business operating?
Sorry, that's okay.
Yeah, no.
We'll let you share your concerns, and we'll get everybody that agrees we need to stand so we can know who all here is speaking against it. If they have something different to offer, then you can come to the mic and offer that additional difference.
My name is Betty Simmons, and I reside at 238 Elbert Arnsloff Road for more than 48 years. This is property that my father, Jackson Zipper, bought shortly after I was born in 1947. I also have a letter here from a neighbor directly across the railroad track from me, who they are elderly and have numerous health problems, so I have a letter from them. I also have an email which was sent to y'all by Susan Exley, but she said she did not have a reply from the email, so she asked me to bring it tonight. She lives on the Springfield-Egypt Road. So I don't know whether you want me to read those or you want me to just give them to you, how you want to do that.
That'd be great.
spoke from my heart last time, but today I sat at my computer and I wrote down some things that I wanted to share with you. My property is located across from the Albert Arnstoff Road that is requested to be rezoned industrial. This property was once a cypress pond, or what we would now refer to as wetlands. A drainage ditch on the property brings the runoff from this property directly across my property, then to Highway 21 right-of-way ditch, which flows directly into Turkey Branch and Hindley Branch, which both flow through my property. If you could see my property right now, you would say, wow, it's beautiful. It's alive with dozens of blooming azaleas, blueberries, pear trees, and numerous other flowering trees and shrubs. I have a winter garden that I harvest almost daily, and I have chickens and guineas. Much of my land is also in woodlands. Much of my land is also wetlands. We enjoy many hours outdoors fishing, swimming, gardening, and hosting fish fries and cookouts, or just relaxing with friends and families. I object to this property being rezoned on the grounds that it is spot zoning that will cause trespasses to my property from noise, air, water, and land pollution. This business will be using well water and septic tanks. Construction equipment, tractor trailers, and forklifts will be very noisy and polluting to our air, land, and water. There are two accesses to this property from the Albert Arnstoff Road, which is unpaved, and I wonder how many of his employees will be coming in our road and how that's going to impact this dirt road that already gets in pretty bad shape when we have a lot of wet weather. Commissioners, I would like to quote your mission statement to you. It is the mission of the Effingham County Board of Commissioners to provide, through highest integrity, a county government which will assure our citizens a safe and healthy environment to encourage and promote a high quality of life. I submit to you that the best way to do this is to keep industrial businesses in the many industrial parks already established in this county. Mr. Burns had expressed to me after the planning board meeting that it was very hard for small businesses to locate in these parks. Mr. Burns seems to have a thriving business, and I wish him much success. Hopefully, you as our commissioners and the IDA can work with him to find a more suitable location for his business. It is my understanding, and one of the reasons that the planning board voted to deny the request, that if you approve this site at 3554 Highway 21 North and his business fails, then any type of industry would locate on this property, and we, the adjoining property owners, would have no say as to what locates there in the future. It also would open up the possibilities of other industries wanting to locate on other properties in our area. I wish no ill will towards the present owner of this property. One of my neighbors said she spoke with him, and he told her he had turned down several offers that he did not think would be compatible with our area. I was very happy to hear this, and I hope and pray that he will be successful in finding a way to utilize this property without causing trespasses to our area. Unfortunately, we are here today because of a failed business model that was approved years ago that should not have been approved. This land was mostly wetlands, and the owner had to invest more money than she could have ever recouped to try and build it up. Much of it is still wetlands today. Mr. Burns, it sounds like he has a nice business plan. It sounds great, but he already plans to double the size of his operation. There's a 7,500 square foot building there now. He told us at the planning board meeting he wants to immediately add another 7,500 square foot building. He presently has 26 employees and he immediately plans to employ 8 more. Sounds like to me he has a good business going. I have no objections to his business. I just object to where he wants to put it. We are an agricultural, residential area, and we prefer to keep it that way. So I thank you for your time and consideration, and I hope you will vote in favor of us.
As you come to speak against, I just want to make sure it understands that the board understands that when you rezone something, so we don't restate the same things, that it opens a door for others to have the same zoning. And you understand that a property owner can't control what future property owners do with that zoning. So those are 2 things you don't need to remind us. We understand those and are conscious of those items tonight. So if you have something additional to add, please.
Yeah, I'm her son, Joseph Price Williams. So born and raised there, and I own property across the road, across the creek, my grandfather's place. But we work hard to keep this. You know, we could all retire early if we wanted to sell out and move on. And you know, we've had opportunities. But you know, we choose to love in our heart for our neighbors and the people around. And we love redfin pike. People that grew up in this area know what that is, but just to say again, the back of the property also has a drain under the railroad track that goes into a big pond there that has properties all around it. So there's a lot of impact possibility. You know, if it doesn't go forward and work out, and we could get a bad industry. Of course, you know, I don't want any industry there myself, but just the runoff from possibility of having a big building on a big piece of property, you know, is very scary to us, you know. So we just love to keep it like it is and keep industrial where it should be, wherever that may be. You know, I love that he has the ambition he has, because we need jobs for everybody. It's great, but we sure like to keep it in the right place. But does anybody else may want to speak? Or?
Yeah, does anyone else want to add anything different? I might ask all those who are here, just so you know, you waste your time if you're against this rezoning, because you just raise your hand so we can see who is here tonight. Okay. All right, thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Just to make sure you have opportunities. Is there anybody who has anything different they want to add to what's been shared in objection tonight? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and open up discussion and comments from the board. Okay, I'll go to entertain motion.
I'll tell you what, you don't hear the reference to redfin pipe very often anymore. So, I live on Sister's Ferry Road, so I'm not too far from the woods from y'all. Definitely voting this position. Definitely want to always make the county business friendly. Make it where if someone wants to grow a business, has the ambition, be able to help them out, help them grow. Creating jobs in the county, keeping people here working in the county, that's a win-win for everybody. But I thought a lot about this. I knew this was going to be a hot topic with this zoning request. But at the end of the day, this area, it is agricultural. It's not industrial. I know there's earlier in discussion, there was a piece of property referenced several miles from here, but in my mind, it's still several miles from there. And once we start, I mean, that's starting to get towards the Shawnee, Scriven County line. That's getting pretty far north. Everything around there is agricultural. I know quite a few of folks that rent the property, lease the property around there, plant I just think keeping it agricultural, that supports our comprehensive plan that comes into effect of what that area was intended to do. And in coming to these decisions, there's always a lot of factors to consider. But with all of that being said, I'm going to recommend we deny the request. I'm going to go along with the planning board recommendation. And to Mr. Burnson, I mean, I'll personally commit to try to help you find another spot, try to work with the IDA or work with the county to try to help you out, try to find something else. But, Mr. Chairman, my motion is to deny the request.
Okay, you have a second?
Second.
Mr. Burdette, before we vote, I want to affirm what he just shared with you. We appreciate businesses and we want to try to help you find something that works for you. So feel free to contact myself and Mr. Deloach, and we'll see what we can support and help you do so that you can grow that business where you want to grow it and still try to exceed the character of our master plan. At least a good agricultural area north of here. You know the south is going to really grow up. It's changing. Okay. All in favor of denying this alternative number one, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And it is denied. But Devin, you don't appreciate you. We'll try to figure out what we can help you with. Okay? All right, good. Number 11, public hearing to continue on the second reading. The planning board recommends approving an application by Timothy David Usher. He's on 4 acres located at 388 Springfield Egypt Road from AR1 to AR2. And that number 365, parcel 13 in the third district. You want to share anything before we open the public hearing?
Yes, Mr. Usher has a parcel on which he currently, it's zoned AR1, so it is appropriate that he has both his home and a second home, because it's a mobile home. At this time, he wants to divide the property in order to sell the home, the single home, to his family member, and then he will live in the mobile home. And in order to do that, he needs to rezone, as the property is itself 4 acres, so it's a little small for AR1, but that was just an artifact of earlier zoning.
Yes, grandfathered in.
Right, exactly. And so in order to split it, he needs to rezone it to AR2 to accommodate smaller lot size. There will be, given that the buildings are already there, it's a little awkward with easements, just as the earlier case was. So he's agreed that he would show the easement on the plat. And that is a stipulation, in fact, that staff recommends to ensure that access is there in the case in the future, if it's not just family living there, that access to the road. I mean, there is frontage, it's just that it's unlikely to be able to do a dividing line that would split the parcel on its length. So staff recommended approval, as it does meet the zoning district requirements. We did suggest in stipulations that each lot meet the requirements of the AR2 zoning, with including easement access to the road through the parcel. And so that would need to be included on the plat when it comes in with the plat for that to be signed. And also, of course, the health department to approve, even though it's all after the fact. But
And it has the amount of road frontage it needs to have to be rezoned.
Road frontage.
One of the amendment road frontage, they have to be rezoned.
it actually has sufficient road frontage. It's just unlikely that, you can run the line up. And as we discussed at our last meeting, road frontage is a basic requirement. However, in cases where it can't be accommodated, the lot lines, an easement is appropriate. And in this case, because the houses are already there, because that's allowed in AR1, and now he wants to split them for, to allow family members to move into one of the buildings, it just works out that easement is his option here, and we've suggested that it be a stipulation that it be included on the plat. And that's normal. Usually if someone comes in with a plat to sign, we do require that there be road frontage or easement. So this is just reinforcing that.
Okay, very good. We'll open a public hearing. You want to speak for this rezoning?
Yeah, I own the land. I reckon I will. But the road frontage is Springfield Egypt Road. Timothy Usher. The road frontage is Springfield Egypt Road. Little Ponderosa's on Springfield. Everybody knows where the Little Ponderosa is at. It's on Springfield Egypt Road. There's 5 lots there. There's access from Springfield Egypt Road, and then the subdivision behind us is also got access to all 5 properties because the high line for the power company runs through there. Easement is down, I'm looking at it the right side. I've been there 30 years, 31 years. And me and my neighbor share that property line, so, you know, we grew up together, went to school together and all. It's no problem there. The back left corner, you can't do nothing with it because of the high line that runs through. You can't build nothing, can't put nothing, can't obstruct the high line for the power company to come through there. So all I'm doing is cutting it, surveying it out, 3 acres for my daughter and her husband and 1 acre for the trailer, because she's got, they won't take it unless it's that to secure a loan for remodel the house. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here.
Thank you, sir.
And that's it. That's all.
Anyone else speaking for this tonight? Anyone here tonight speaking in opposition to this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Loper to approve staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. Any carries. Have a second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Timothy David Usher to rezone 4 acres located at 388 Springfield Egypt Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 365, parcel number 13 in 3rd District. Motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it's approved. You can move forward.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Item number 13, public hearing. The planning board recommends approving an application by Michael Zara to rezone 5.01 acres located at 1123 Indigo Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 425, parcel number 25 in the 3rd District.
So in a very similar style, Mr. Zoller owns 5 acres on AR1, and while it's appropriate for him to have 2 homes there, the second one for a family member, in this case he wants to subdivide out 1 parcel, an acre from that, in order to, I'm not sure now if he's selling it or not, but, okay. Just subdividing the parcel out, and of course that brings it below that 5
It'll be
acre.
at least an acre, the one he's subdividing out.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of the same as we had before. Anyone speaking for this tonight?
I'll speak for it if everybody is.
Well, is anybody here speaking against it tonight? So maybe you don't need to worry about coming forward, okay? All right, any discussion on the board? All right, do I have a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Motion from Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Kiefer to approve planning board staff recommendations. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. And carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Michael Zala to rezone 5.01 acres located at 1123 Indigo Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 425, parcel number 25 in the 3rd District. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion from Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. That was easy. Okay. All right, item number 15, the planning board recommends approving an application by Brad and Stephen Smith to rezone 5.26 acres located 185 Long Lane Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 14A, parcel number 15 in the 4th District.
Hello, Brad Smith. Like you said, just...
One second. Do you want to share, she always shares the detail first?
sorry.
That's okay. I'm doing it on public hearing.
Okay, and keeping on the theme, Mr. Smith has 5.26 acres and wishes to subdivide a parcel out that requires rezoning as it's AR1 and needs to become AR2.
Gotcha.
And
All
just,
right. I'm going to expedite this. Is anyone here tonight that's going to speak against this rezoning? I don't see anyone, so unless you really want to talk, you don't have to. But you're welcome to share. All right. Any discussion among the board?
I might turn it down, I don't know.
It's your district, you can make your recommendation. All right, Mr. Luker will make a motion.
Make a motion to approve staff recommendations. Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach, to approve staff recommendations. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Brad and Susan Smith to rezone 5.26 acres located at 185 Log Landing Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 410, parcel number 15, in the 4th district.
Make a motion to approve second reading. Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. You got it. Item number 17, the planning board recommends approving an application by Helen Dasher Estate and Greg House to rezone 25.8 acres located at 121 Goshen Road, extension from AR1 to B2, map number 485, parcel number 2 in the 5th district.
I'm just checking it because there's two that are very similar. So what we're looking at is this large tract here, but your next item actually will be the little tract there. So
Okay.
it's the same kind of request for both, but they're under different ownerships, so they came in separately. So this larger tract is owned by the Helen Dasher Estate, and Mr. Howes is representing them. They wish to rezone from AR1 B2, which all of the surrounding property is actually B2 because those are technically
So everything
apartments.
around to B2.
Yeah, so he just wants to bring it into conformity and then for future development.
Okay. All right. We'll open a public hearing on this. Anyone speaking for this rezoning tonight? Is anyone here tonight speaking against this rezoning? Yeah, I don't know that you need to speak for it. If you'd like to, you're welcome to. Okay. Also, any discussion from the board, questions? A motion from the 15th?
Make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Keefer to approve staff and planning board recommendations. All second by you, Mr. Loper?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Loper, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of application by Helen Dasher Estate and Greg House to rezone 25.88 acres located at 121 Goshen Road, extension from AR1 to B2, map number 465, parcel number 2 in the 5th district. Motion for second reading.
Motion to approve second reading.
Second. Motion Mr. Keefer, second Mr. Burdette to approve second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. I feel like that guy on the radio that gives the talk 9 miles an hour.
Disclaimer.
Stop that. It's number 19, it's passed. Number 19, public hearing. The planning board recommends approving an application by Laura Neal, incorporated to rezone 0.55 of an acre located on Goshen Road extension AR1 to B2, map number 465, parcel number 2 in the 5th district. This is that little area that she just showed us. Doesn't appear to be any different, so I'll open a public hearing and see if there's anyone speaking for it tonight. Acknowledge anyone speaking against it tonight. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Considering it's completely surrounded by commercial.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the planning board staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion Mr. Keefer, second Mr. Loper to approve planning board staff recommendations. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. Move to the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Laura Neal Incorporated to rezone 0.55 of an acre located on Goshen Road extension from AR1 to B2, map number 465, parcel number 2A in the 5th district.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Keefer, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. All right, that concludes our public hearing tonight. And I believe we have a request for executive session, so I entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session. Executive session, discuss personnel, property, and Indian litigation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Keefer, second by Mr. Deloach. executive session. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Carries. Executive session.